This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
All right, 10 Sundays in the book, 8 more to go. Wherever that book is, by the way. Tony Dungy, Drew Brees, Mike Florio with us. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Dungy. We started our season in the barbershop in Tampa, and it was hey, the Bucs are going to be great. It's going to be a great season. Now we really thought coming off the bye week and a loss, they are going to take off. And Washington just flat out beat them on Sunday. So what are we reading the Bucs now?
Yeah, we thought, well, New Orleans, they've got a formula. They know how to play them. But Washington basically did the same thing. They took away the deep passing game, stopped the run, kind of forced Tom Brady into a lot of difficult throws. And then offensively, they just possessed the football. And we're not used to seeing that against Tampa. Tampa's got to get back to that formula, get some plays, explosive plays up the field. And then defensively, Drew, they haven't put any pressure on anybody.
No, they haven't been able to get pressure with their four-man front. As we know, Todd Bowles likes to five-man, six-man pressure a lot, but on the back end, they're missing 3 of their top corners. So from a coverage perspective, those aren't really good matchups for them. So they're giving up more plays. Other teams are able to stay on the field. They're not generating turnovers or pass rush, and the result is what you see, which is it's making it really tough, a lot tougher for their offense, and they're staying on the field longer.
Yeah, I think you are right about that one thing. Todd Bowles probably hesitant to blitz as much as he would like, not feeling like I've got those healthy corners.
Well, let's flip this to the Washington side. Tony, we did this playoff game, the wild card game last year, and Taylor Heineke played well. We didn't think he'd play well at all. He played really well, kept them in the game. And here Washington defensively does a good job. I bring Mike in, Florio, because, Mike, you spoke to Ron Rivera after the game. I got to imagine this is the high point of the Washington season that had not been going as forecast to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And he told me they actually dipped back into the game tape from that playoff loss to Tampa Bay because really when you look at the 4 playoff games, Washington gave them a surprisingly stout run. And you're able to say, we can play with this team. And both teams had 2 weeks to get ready. And Washington spent the first week focusing on themselves, Rivera told me, the second week focusing on the Buccaneers. But huge win for Washington in what seems to be a pretty wide-open race for that last playoff spot in the NFC. And for the Buccaneers, you just have to wonder, 2 straight losses. And this is when they found the gas pedal last year coming out of the bye week, and they're still searching for the gas pedal.
Yeah, Washington, the Giants, and Philadelphia all have 6 losses. 5 losses right now is good enough for the last spot. That's Rivera's old team, Carolina. I'm going to come back to you on that, Mike, in just a minute. Let's just spin it over to Seattle and Green Bay. Tony, I thought you made a great point because we were talking Russell Wilson's back, the finger. We saw the video of the rehab and the return and all that. And then Aaron Rodgers out because of COVID. They didn't look like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and it's easy to think these guys are Hall of Famers. They're great quarterbacks. They're going to come in and light things up. It doesn't work that way, does it, Drew? You go a week without practicing at all. You go 4 weeks like Russell Wilson. You're not going to just come back and just be lights out right away.
Yeah, I had consecutive seasons, my last 2 seasons, where I missed time with my thumb and then missed time with my ribs. And so certainly you come back and you're a little bit rusty and the timing isn't all there. And, I think especially for Aaron Rodgers, though, when you look at the way his defense is playing, that's so encouraging because you feel like that, coupled with his run game and obviously Devontae Adams, and they're just a tough team to beat anywhere.
Yeah, I'm excited about Green Bay if I'm a Green Bay fan because that defense is showing signs of being able to win games even when the offense isn't red hot.
And what are you seeing with this defense? Because remember, this is a defense that was much maligned. There's another coordinator change, trying to find the right answer, 3rd different coordinator in 4 years. Are you seeing a difference in this defense now?
Well, Joe Barry, you have to remember his roots. Tampa Bay, Rod Marinelli, Tony Dungy, maybe. Should we say that? Play hard, play sound, don't give up big plays, and that's what they're doing. They're rushing the passer, they're playing hard, they're making you go the long route, and it's fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
Mike, bring you in here on what is a very interesting puzzle that is developing in the NFC, where Green Bay now finds itself at the very top after all the conversation last week, a little bit of a tumultuous week. Aaron Rodgers emotional when he leaves the field today, talking about that in his press conference. Right now, if it all ended, you'd have to go through Lambeau to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC.
Yeah, and that, as we could tell from the weather today, right? 2.5 months before the NFC Championship. And it's the latest NFC Championship ever, January 30. Good luck in Green Bay on January 30. Right. But, an important issue to keep in mind, and Rodgers was asked about this after the game. It was his first press conference since his positive test back on November 3. How badly will you feel if you can't play in the Super Bowl because you test positive again or you have a close contact? And he said he didn't want to get into the what-if game, but the reality is he doesn't get tested. He isn't subject to close contact disqualification until 2 days after the NFC Championship. Well, that leaves 12 days until the Super Bowl where he would be tested again. He would be subject to getting knocked out again, and we've already seen it happen once. So it could line up just like that where Packers fans have to sweat out 12 days between when he's tested again and when the Super Bowl happens.
So, Mike, can we unpeel that for everybody a little bit? After you test positive, there's a window where you come out. So now if you are among the players who are not vaccinated, there's a certain time period where none of that testing will apply to you, and you're almost, like we talked about earlier with COVID, kind of in a test-free zone?
Yeah, they call it a testing holiday, 90 days from the date on which you tested positive. Not only are you not tested, but you also are not automatically gone for 5 days if you're in close contact with someone who's infected. For unvaccinated players, generally, you're gone for 5 days if that happens. So he's set through the NFC Championship. 2 days after, he goes back to where he was on November 3rd.
So, Drew, you played a game or two against Cam Newton in the NFC South, right? And so Cam Newton, he's with the Patriots. He doesn't make it. Dad interviews him, right? We see this all. I didn't think we'd see him again this year, right? And he goes back to, of all places, Carolina.
Yeah.
And he runs out there. PGA Walker's starting because Sam Darnold's out likely for the rest of the season. And they're in the red zone, and here comes Cam. And he runs it in, and it really felt like it was 2013, 14, and 15 all over again.
I was going to say, the irony of that was the plays that he was in today for the Panthers were exactly mirror images of what you would have remembered from him 4 or 5 years ago when they were really making their run. And so if they can continue to build on that, and I'm confident their offense coordinator, Joe Brady, will do a great job in building that offense around him if indeed he ends up being the starter now for the rest of the season. But again, the way that defense is playing and having Christian McCaffrey next to him, if he can just have some semblance of a passing game where he's taking care of the football, he's distributing the ball to all the playmakers, he's got a bunch of playmakers at receiver, then this could be a dangerous team down the stretch.
Tony, that's good coaching, right?
It
because,
is.
I mean, it's one of those things where we know what Cam Newton did. This coaching staff wasn't there, but let me go back. I'll dust this whole thing off, and let's do what you did well in the red zone. That's a really great job of coaching.
No, and think about when Cam was playing and they went to the Super Bowl in 2016. Very good running game. He had Jonathan Stewart then, but then a lot of stuff that came off that run game. Excellent defense, and that's what they have now in Carolina. So if Cam can deliver just a percentage of what he was, they can be dangerous here.
It looked old school. There's a great grid here. This is all the games in the National Football League every week, right? Yeah. Sometimes the grid, sometimes the grid spits out magic. Mike Florio, the magic of the grid is just so happens Cam's back. He's going up against Ron Rivera in Washington next week. Is there any possibility that Cam starts that game?
I'm told there's a strong chance he'll be the starter. He'll be the guy. And Rivera had never and has never faced Cam Newton on the opposite side of the field. And I just was kind of joking around when I said to Rivera today, because I saw the schedule, hey, do you have that little file that you carry around of the plays I'll use on defense if I ever face Cam Newton? And he said, yes, I do. So he's got 9 years of intelligence on Cam Newton that he's ready to use against him. It's going to be incredible.
That'll be fabulous. What a great storyline out of a game you didn't think would be much a couple of weeks ago. Right. That becomes one of the must-watch games of Week 11. Tony, do you believe in the New England Patriots after what you saw today against Cleveland in Foxborough?
Well, yes, and even before that, you know, Bill Belichick, he builds teams. They don't beat themselves. They know how to attack people. The question was Mac Jones going to be able to play winning football at this level right away? And he's showing that he can. They've got a lot of other elements in place. They can pound the run. They've got a defense that gives you different looks all the time. They play well on special teams. And Mac Jones is playing excellent football for them.
He is. Early in this season, they were still trying to kind of find themselves on defense. They were not running the football. They were putting a lot of that pressure on Mac Jones. But these last 4 weeks, this has been old school Patriot football. That defense is playing lights out. They're getting turnovers. They're being very opportunistic. They're running the football over 150 yards per game. And Mac Jones, that allows him to just throw 23 to 25 passes a game. He's completing 17 or 18 of them, so he's 70+% completion. He's distributing the ball very well. You can tell he's mature beyond his years, but now if you take the pressure off of him having to carry the offense, I mean, you're seeing him mature before your eyes even more, but they've got everything it takes right now.
We left Foxborough 7 weeks ago, week 4, the Brady return game, right? And said, Patriots are doing some nice things. They'll get better. 5 of 7 games that they've played since then, their only 2 losses are that game and the Dallas game in overtime. They've played tremendous football. Can they beat Buffalo in the AFC East?
They can, and the thing about the AFC, there is not a great team in the AFC right now. There's no dominant team. So you look at them, and they'll adjust to whoever they play week in and week out. They're going to have a great game plan to go against them. They're going to give themselves a chance in every game.
And that's what I love about them, probably more so than any team, is you talk about being so game plan specific on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Some teams just go out there and, hey, we're going to run what we run. But truly, each and every week, offense and defense, they're going to have something specific to win that game. And you've watched it displayed these last 4 weeks.
Yeah, when we used to go against them, and we did a lot back then.
Right,
And most teams, you watch their last 4 games, and that's what you're going to get. We had to try to find teams like us to look at. It may have been 6 games ago, 10 or a year before.
Right.
But that's what you had to do because you weren't going to see what you might have seen last week if that team didn't resemble you.
It's going to be very specific to you and what you do.
So Mike Florio, we've got the AFC all figured out because we watched Cleveland play Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, and Pittsburgh win that game. And then we watched Cleveland play Cincinnati. It's okay, well, the Bengals aren't here. Cleveland's really on a roll now. Odell's not there. They've got their group. And then Cleveland looked awful in this game, and Baker gets hurt again. Can you figure Cleveland out right now?
Well, the defense was not good. Myles Garrett told reporters after the game they weren't really making adjustments during the game, which is not the most strong endorsement you could make of defensive coordinator Joe Woods. But on the offensive side of the ball, it all comes down to Baker Mayfield. He's kind of, hovering around a level that's acceptable, but it's not high-level franchise stuff that they hope he can get back to. Second half of last season, he had that uptick that carried them into the postseason and got them a victory. I feel like they're waiting for that, and they're waiting for that. And part of the problem is he's so banged up, you can see the harness on the left shoulder. Yeah. Now he has the knee contusion. He's just having a heck of a time getting to 100%, and it's going to be hard for him to become a franchise guy if he's constantly chasing the effort to try to get himself fully healthy.
Thinking of my friends in Cincinnati this week. A good weekend for Cincinnati, right? Hosted the U.S. national soccer team, got a 2-0 win over Mexico. Big in the World Cup qualifying group. The Bearcats won. They're still rolling. Luke Fickell. They're 10-0. They're 2 wins away from a perfect season. They watched Baltimore lose on Thursday night. They watched Cleveland get cleaned out by New England, right? And then Pittsburgh banging around. They tied Detroit. Cincinnati had a great weekend. They didn't play. So Cincinnati wins the AFC North for this week. Speed round, gentlemen. New Orleans, Tennessee. Titans keep it rolling by beating the Saints.
Yeah, the Titans, it's not impressive, but they just keep finding ways to win. You have to credit Mike Vrabel for that. New Orleans had their opportunities. I guess their 4th kicker, Drew, that kind of hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, two missed extra points. Really that game came down to probably 3 plays. The pass or the roughing the pass penalty we all felt like was not, and that ended up giving them 7 points, and then the fumble on the kickoff, and then the 2 missed extra points. But with Tennessee, they're not playing great on offense, but they're not beating themselves either. Without Derrick Henry, we wondered what the run game would look like. It's okay, it's functional. And they're making some plays in the passing game, but really their wins have been about defense and special teams, taking the ball away and just playing really sound in that regard.
And, Mike, the Titans are up 3 in the AFC South.
And they've fallen into this rhythm where they take each game one at a time. We hear that cliche all the time, but they have hit that stride where they're never going to look past, they're never going to look back, they're going to focus on the here and now. I think losing to the Jets helped jar them into that sense of let's just focus on one game at a time, take everybody seriously. don't look past anybody and just take our games one after another, and it's worked 6 straight.
That's the one positive for the Jets today, by the way. Jets have beaten Tennessee and Cincinnati. I want to sit down and somebody explain that to me. Is speed round, I've been asked to go a little quicker. Detroit-Pittsburgh, I'll let you start.
Oh, I mean, ugly. Pittsburgh had an opportunity today to sit atop the division.
Yeah.
They got a big test coming up, with Chargers next week and then the rest of their divisional schedule. So that was a missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity is correct, and you can blame, Ben Roethlisberger's out, and Chase Claypool, and we don't have this guy and don't have that guy, but you still can't catch balls and go 40 yards and then fumble. You can't have penalties when you get interceptions. Those are the things that I know Mike Tomlin is going to be very upset about.
Hey, Mike?
Well, and it's not like anyone is going to say, what a surprise Mason Rudolph wasn't able to come in and get the job done. I mean, we've kind of seen that the past few years. That's what's so stunning about the Steelers right now. They're content to have a significant drop-off between starting quarterback and backup, and they really didn't do anything to address it in the offseason, and this is one of those occasions where you pay for it. And now they may not have Ben Roethlisberger next Sunday night.
Right.
He's got to have the 2 negative tests at least 24 hours apart, and at a minimum, he's probably going to miss most of the practice week, even if he does make it back, so it could be Mason Rudolph again.
Ben is vaccinated, I should say. He reported his symptoms right away, and the COVID test was positive. So that's why it was a real last 24-hour before the game situation. Lastly, Mike, I'll come to you on the Vikings, a team you watch closely that did win against L.A. How about Mike Zimmer walking off the field at SoFi, leading the Skol for the Vikings fans that assembled in Southern California?
The poor Chargers. It was funny when they were playing at the 30,000-seat stadium and it was overrun by visiting fans.
Oh, yeah, every
They
week.
said, it'll be better when we have a bigger stadium. No, it'll be worse. It'll be much, much worse. But, the Vikings, the dream is alive, guys. 9-8 or 8-9, maybe the 7th seed, a quick exit in the postseason, and then do it all over again next year.
But we laugh at that, but the Vikings really might be the 5th or 6th best team in the NFC. They've had so many games that they could have won with a kick or something here. I had a feeling they would beat the Chargers today, but they could play just as bad next week and lose.
I was going to say, there's not a team that's more battle-tested, we could say.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Absolutely.
But they're going to win some that they shouldn't, and they're going to lose some that they shouldn't. But regardless, they're going to be close, and it's going to be entertaining.
That was the disappointment of the week. I guarantee that game would be a one-pointer that came down to a missed kick at the end. And it was like, it was within one score. It was shocking for those teams. We have nothing else we can tell you about the NFL. So we'll say goodbye. Roll the Applebee's credit. Enjoy your meal. Have vanilla ice cream with the apple pie. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.